is all educational. It's interesting to see this belief system being so widespread today. And Abrahamism is alive and well. Yahwism is alive and well, but it doesn't mean that these are good things to be have massive people thinking about.
Thank you for calling Collin Studios host and call screener line. Please enter your show or meeting number and press pound.
Fulfillment of prophecy and stuff, because the fulfillment of prophecy is obliteration.
Enter your 6-digit PIN number.
So that's the whole the Jesuit stuff of the ends justify the means.
Right.
Well, that's just a Christian reiteration of the ancient Hebrew idea of the apocalypse or the end times justifies the prophecies.
That was an invalid PIN for Zetetic newscast. Please re-enter your 6-digit PIN. If you think you have reached the wrong show, hang up and try again.
We need to not actually be upholding these prophecies. I think
Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Collin Studio web interface. Audio recording is on. Dual channel.
All right.
Are we back?
I think we're back live.
Oh, the internet hiccups.
Yeah, and another burp. Fortunately, it looks like our caller Dutch is still on the line, so we're going to pick up right where we left off. Dutch, are you still there? Sorry that we dropped you. The internet had a burp.
You there?
You there?
I'm not sure if he's linked in to the show yet.
Let me. Oh, let's see. There he is.
Send him a new link.
What happened?
Sorry about that, Dutch. We had an internet burp.
It was more than an internet burp and everything. I'll tell you what it is. And when the truth starts coming out, they cut you off.
Yeah. I know. I love that. But it was getting really good. You and Xavier were talking about, the cosmology that you've been describing and how that plays into world events.
Well, I have no idea where I left off and all.
I wanted to go into just a train of thought.
Because I was rambling on, sitting here rambling on. And then I noticed, well, nobody's responding back and all. How long?
It's okay. It's okay. We were just letting you run, but Xavier did have some points he wanted to flesh out with you. So
I was.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about.
Go ahead. I'm not going to talk anymore.
What I was thinking about what you were saying earlier was, you were saying that a lot of this evil in the world is brought to bear by individuals who worship a malevolent entity, and I was thinking, even as a young kid, and I'm sure a lot of people can identify with this, I kind of rooted for the villain in some of these cartoons and early shows, just because I was fascinated by the opposition that was brought to the table in the narrative. And so I think that a lot of these people worshiping, they don't even necessarily know the full extent to what they're participating in. They're just infatuated by cosmic opposition and this egregore of a evil thought of lying mind entity who causes evil in the world. And what I wanted to link that to was the fact that this idea of an egregore, which is a collective thought form, right? So people kind of summon those things that they believe to a great extent, and I think that's part of the self-fulfilling prophetic idea of the ends justify the means, right? And so if we're sorting meaning from, for example, the prophecies, then basically the apocalypse is the ultimate justification or reification of these prophecies. And so I'm trying to come from more of an anacalyptic angle, which is disclosing the fact that the Bible and many of the Abrahamic traditions, the Yahwist tradition, these are things that are derived from pre-existing mystery schools. They're syncretically combined as narratives to espouse in the form of a faith system. And so I think to a great extent what we're seeing is the fulfillment of that.
Let me make a point, Xavier. based on what you just said. All right. If anybody wants to prove anything that's written in a book, first thing they got to do is see if there's any physical evidence to prove what is being written that they're being told. Okay? And let me tell you something. As far as the Bible goes, everything, if you look into it, now if you go and you look and you go to find it, you will find all the proof that the Bible is telling you exactly, word for word, what's happened in history during Genesis, the Old Testament, and New Testament. It's all there. It's proven there and everything. You want to see something that will really prove Genesis to you in the Bible and everything? They have a thing on there. Just look up Ron Wyatt, okay? And he went around back in the 70s and everything, and he went around and found all the different things mentioned in the Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah, the Red Sea crossing, the mountain of God, the real Mount Sinai, and showed video of it, showing it. I mean, to me, if a person's seeking out truth, if they saw the real mountain of God and it's black on the top from when he was up there and everything, and Moses went up to get the 10 Commandments, and then down at the bottom there's a little cattle trough to bring the animals up to sacrifice them. There's the altar there with the different things on it. It's all in Saudi Arabia is where it's at. And you can see that if that ain't enough to prove to you just one facet of the Genesis scriptures, I don't know what to tell anybody.
Well,
but if you seek out the information, it's there.
There's
to prove that the Bible is not written fictitiously.
Well, it's still written narratively. It's still based on archetypes and ideas.
Yeah, but when you see the Red Sea crossing, you see Pharaoh's chariot wheels sitting in the bottom of the thing still with coral wrapped around them and bones of horses and everything. Well, that little 10 Commandments movie that Charlton Heston made where it opened the Red Sea and everything, that kind of proves that happened.
Well, I'm not really
if it didn't happen,
convinced by that.
Then what the hell are they doing at the bottom of the Red Sea?
Well, water reaggregates and aggregates in various places over long periods of time. And one thing is, for example, Joseph, right? The Joseph narrative of him ruling behind the throne and selling back grain that was given. This is not really explicably proven by any independent record of Egyptian Pharaoh history, independent of the Bible. This is still a narrative that's producing a lesson, a parable, a glimpse or a strategy of how a small tribe of people can imagine ruling over the greatest empires. So I don't think it's proof.
Like I said before and everything, if the son of perdition and everything, his purpose is to distract you from the truth and everything, and lead you, which all the systems he's in control of, that's exactly what he's doing and everything. Then his objective is to make you doubt in any way, shape, fashion, or form that he can do to distract you from the truth of God and everything.
But wouldn't he want people to believe in him in order for him to exist? He's doing that
by just one little facet,
Well, I'm saying the son of perdition is in itself an archetype. You could relate that to the Son of Man. You could relate it to the Mashiach ben David.
He's smarter than you.
Well, what I'm saying is that his existence is reified through belief in him. So if you believe the son of perdition, that he exists, then that's going to bring to bear some of the effects that you see. It's sort of the whole epistemological paradox of you see it when you believe it.
Well,
right?
I can't personally lead, and I don't care to lead anybody into the truth of God and everything. My purpose and everything is to give you my perspective,
right?
And then it's up to each individual person to evaluate and do what they think is right and everything in the end, because I'm not responsible for your soul or Dave's soul or anybody's soul and everything. I'm not responsible.
You're just providing guidance. Guidance.
Yeah. Well, I'm just letting you know what I've learned.
Yeah, and we appreciate it. We love having you on. And getting your take, because it's always an interesting conversation. I personally enjoy, the way you weave together all of your current event readings into this narrative. It's similar. I brought up James earlier. It's similar to my relationship with James, because although I grew up in a Catholic upbringing, I personally have never read the Bible. And so I found it very fascinating talking to you and being able to connect on so many different levels. But at the same time, much of the, the references to Bible are lost on me because I haven't read it. That doesn't mean I inherently question it or doubt it. It's just, like you said, a point of information for me to consider. I was saying to Xavier when we had the internet burp before, I have gone back and forth, but kind of want to read it. Obviously, it's the Bible. It's one of the most published books of all time. Wouldn't I want to read that? Yes. But at the same time, it's been interesting living my life, like I said, having been brought up Christian, but having not read the Bible, seeing all the different sort of takes on the same text from people, and me being sort of like an observer, in a third person spectator.
Guys, let me just say this to you and everything, that you don't have to go, that you were mentioning before and all that a lot of these churches and everything are got corruption and different things, and you're right. And I can tell you this right now, that most of the churches, and I'm talking about most of them, you might find one that's actually teaching the correct way to teach and everything. But how you tell if they are corrupt or not is if they got a begging bag out in front of you. In other words, they want your money and everything. That's the main key. And all of them do that mostly. A lot of them do that mostly. And everything, especially the Catholic Church. And everything. Look at all the stuff that they spend money on and all that for the objects in the church and the chalices and all that, and all the fancy windows and everything. And then they try to claim, well, that's God's sanctuary. It's not. He don't want nothing to do with that and everything. I can guarantee you that. Your best church is right there at your house, right there at your home and all that, and sticking your nose and reading the Word of God. That is your church.
Or a nature hike. I've always thought a nature hike was good. Mm-hmm. But I want to transition off this topic. Dutch would be happy to keep you on if you want to share your thoughts. But I wanted to, we've only got an hour and a half left, and we had a bunch of other sort of topics we wanted to get to. This is more of a personal one because, I think, obviously it's relatable to everybody. Some of this esoteric religion stuff is lost on people. So I want to keep things topical with, what is happening in the clown world that we're physically find ourselves in. And it's still relevant to the whole discussion because I think demonic possession is probably a phrase that comes to mind when I'm going to play some of these videos. But, I had a conversation earlier this week about the disparity between the mindset of the average person and like one who actually seeks the truth and knows how to navigate the highly censored internet now to find real, unless they're experiencing it in real life, which I hope no one is, but the libtardation, the sort of frenetic fascist schizophrenia that we're seeing.
Nice.
I have relatives who are in small towns and they don't really get to see the kind of mentality that you see in the inner cities and the highly populated metropolises. And if you live out in the country, it's sort of similar. You don't understand how far gone the population is. And it's interesting because like
They will.
Yeah, I think they will. If they're not watching it on TV, they'll be watching their front lawn, right? But like for example, my wife works from home. She doesn't go to the bars, or she's not in a college or in a city, but she's still in touch with this because of her ability to sort of navigate the internet and see it for herself safely, remotely, from the comfort of her screen. And it's interesting when we go to see the in-laws, them living in a small town, they are just like blissfully unaware of how crazy it is. And I'm always making jokes, contextual jokes about how, what is racist and what is not. Like I make jokes about things that are obviously not racist, being sarcastic, and it's totally lost on them because they're not in touch with the people who are just obsessed with this and make it about everything. And so, my wife.
You just said the word.
My wife
said the word. Obsession.
Obsession.
They're obsessed with their life and everything, and they're not interested in on this vast knowledge stuff that you're into.
Yeah, and so she pointed out, Twitter, and particularly the Twitter channel Libs of TikTok, does an amazing job of basically exposing this underbelly of society in their own words. There's really, a comment here and there with a post, but the posts themselves kind of speak for themselves. So I'm going to run through a few of these clips, and then I want to get Xavier's response to this. So here's the first one.
Almost all mass shooters are cisgender men, and for some reason, almost all mass shooters are cisgender men, and for some reason, we don't really talk about men being the primary problem. Almost all mass shooters are cisgender men, and for some reason, we don't really talk about men being the primary problem. Can we please blame the patriarchy and not blame mental health? People with mental illness are far more likely to be the victims, not the shooter. Remember, pinning everything on mental health is also a good way to distract you from focusing on the problem of gun ownership. And it's a distraction because the people in power who blame mental health don't give a shit about improving access to mental health care. They want you to think that all the shooters are crazy so that they can justify having all their guns. Whatever. I'm not saying anything you don't already know. This is fucking stupid and horrifying. Almost all...
That's so vapid. It's so many fallacies in there. It's really hard to digest it, other than to ridicule it. I mean,
this guy's a therapist.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he.
And it's like
many people overpay him.
There is a mental illness crisis, but how can you say that the shooters aren't crazy? Isn't that the definition of crazy? Like a defining feature of a crazy person is one who goes out with a gun and mass shoots. How can you? That is like the barometer of crazy.
Well, and it's like trying to create a false dichotomy between like the normative use of the word crazy and mental illness. It's sort of like it's a distinction without a difference. We're talking about the same problem. You're just sort of mincing words and creating false dichotomies, in order to basically rail against a what is not a common denominator, which is an inanimate object that needs
patriarchy.
Right, it's an inanimate object again. It's
ostensibly he's a part of it, unless he doesn't identify that way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, again,
I love it that the biggest white race loathers and patriarchy critics are like white males or white females who are married to white males.
Well, which is a sign of that
the mental illness. And of course
right.
If he's a therapist and mental health therapist, it's kind of like, of course you want to reinforce the fact that everybody's mentally ill.
I mean, isn't ethnomasochism a form, or like gender masochism for that matter, a form of mental illness? I mean, this guy's clearly an ethnomasochistic person. he hates the fact that he's a man and can be associated with this amorphous category of the patriarchy, and that for him is the prime operating concern when it comes to things that aren't related to patriarchy per se at all. It's just once you believe it, then you'll see it.
Right.
You know, if you believed in this, you know, amorphous feminist narrative about a patriarchal dominated society, which is harder and harder to make as time goes on. I mean, again, if we were really a patriarchal dominated society, you wouldn't be able to criticize it.
Isn't it interesting too that so the patriarchy controls everything, but at the same time the feminists contend that they have control of their men.
Yes. And so they are the ones at the tip of the transhumanist spear, which will make men obsolete when they can just, you know.
But then if they control the men and the men are the problem, aren't they the problem?
Precisely.
So anyways, let's move on. Here's another good one from Libs of TikTok. I filed this one under the category of I think social unrest or something like that. You know, and I think James Ardell, when he called in last time, he touched on this as well. You know, like we're starting to see how unruly the population gets when, you know, the wallet gets tight. You know, I just thought maybe the COVID plastic screens were not for the virus, but for the waves of hungry people that.
This is social justice in action, guys.
Here's another one.
Who's gonna fucking eat? I'm hungry! Now! Now! I'm fucking hungry. It's not the same thing! Fucking... What? Give me something to eat! You're clean and they real! Fuck you! Give me something to eat! Now! I'm not fucking off! Do it! Do it! Fuck you! Give it to me! Now! 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 Stop, you bitch!
Is it a big surprise why people don't want to work these jobs at this point?
Your Chick-fil-A, $17 an hour. That's your best bet.
And this is what you have to deal with.
Here's another one.
We got tacos, baby! Burrito!
Smartphone cameras were rolling as the Saturday attack unfolded, showing a woman trashing the South Tacos stand, dumping tins full of food and pouring out barrels of horchata and juice before assaulting Berta Zuniga, who told us Monday her neck is sore and she's afraid.
Es que no se sabe. A veces sí me pongo de nervios porque no sabe uno.
Afraid and nervous to speak out. Zuniga says the woman, who they've seen before near their spot on Slauson and Normandy in South LA, went ballistic after workers told her it would take a few minutes to make her order. After hitting Zuniga, they say she fixed herself a plate of food and then, as seen here, spit on everything left behind.
We got tacos, baby!
Yeah, even when you try to start your own business, you're dealing with the same issues here. I mean, this is, of course, mostly inner city.
Yeah, sorry. I'm chewing in the background because all these clips of people eating at restaurants, they made me hungry. But yeah, I mean, it's like we talked about, man, more than a year and a half ago, probably, the deindustrialization and the favela-villeization of the cities and the strip malls. And what you're seeing here, you said inner city, but it's just going to spread with the economic circumstances that we're being you know.
Well, and
again, we're going to phase out combustion engines. So, what kind of effect is that going to have to these kind of conditions?
And if you look at the plans for some of these malls that are completely going under, you're going to have people living in the mall here pretty soon, and then it's going to be out in the strip malls, and it's going to be squatter heaven here.
Yeah, and it's literally going to be... there's not going to be a police force to basically go in and evict people.
Right.
You know, I think I posted this in the Telegram, and we were talking